Hi, honey, how are you? It's Teknikolour. I have another speed build for you. This time, it is my week 4 submission for the Builder Games. Yes, we are still in the competition currently. This time, we have gone to Egypt, specifically downtown Cairo, and I'm recreating an actual restaurant called Oldish. Let's check it out. So if you're unfamiliar with the Builder Games, what this is, it's a The Sims 4 building competition, and it has 2 travel guides, 15 judges, and 30 contestants, of which I am one. Currently, we're on week 4, and this is the speed build of my submission. This is season 5 of the Builder Games, and what's kind of exciting is this season is a world tour. So each week, we're going to one of 6 locations. There's 6 weeks total to the competition. And whoever remains in the competition, because it is elimination style, they visit a new location each and every single week, totaling 6, but I don't know if I'll make it that far. So we've officially made it to 4. And actually, this video is going live on Wednesday morning, and then a couple of hours later, I'll find out if I make it through to week 5. 5 out of 6. That just seems crazy to me. I really want to get through the entire competition, maybe even win, but who knows what's going to happen. But regardless, I have had a ton of fun. Last week when we went to Svalbard, Norway, it was kind of exciting because we found out towards the end of the week that none of us would be eliminated based on our scoring. So as long as you submitted your build or you didn't step away from the competition, you got through. So we all made it through to week 4. And I had a really good time with this build. This might actually be tied with the Cape Town build, maybe even my favorite. I had a really good time building this. Basically, the focus of this challenge is for us to visit each of these areas and do our research, find out more about the culture, the building styles, and build something that fits within that space. But we're learning about all these different locations and becoming better builders because of it. Personally, I think I'm growing a lot. I feel like I've definitely pushed myself this competition and built things that I probably wouldn't. I've used items that I definitely wouldn't have used previously, and I feel like I'm a better builder. I don't know if you have been following the whole competition or watching my previous builds for this competition, but I'm going to post the Builder Games official website down below. Also, I'm going to post the playlist of my previous submissions if you'd like to check them out. Something that I just found out last week is that feedback on our builds is relatively new to the competition. Apparently, it used to just be that the judges would just give a score and we wouldn't really have feedback. And I have to say, getting feedback on my builds is probably the part that I'm most excited about. I love going to each of these different locations and building something and learning about the cultures and figuring out how to make my build fit within that world. But getting actual feedback from people who know how to build and are really good at it, especially people who have won the Builder Games before, I feel like is so valuable. Why don't I explain a little bit about the rules of this challenge? We aren't allowed to submit previously created builds. We have to build them from scratch. They're not from a shell. We can't use custom content. And obviously, we're not allowed to build outside of each week's challenge prompt, and we can't plagiarize. However, we can use any pack we have at our disposal. We can use CC-free art. We can use the tool mod, Better Build By, Debug, Live Edit, bb.move objects, and each of our builds will be judged by the judges on a point-based system. The maximum base score that we can receive from a single judge is 5 points. We get 3 points for challenge accuracy, 1 point for visual appeal, and 1 point for uniqueness. On top of that, judges can award up to 3 extra points per challenge, and those can go to one single individual or to multiple participants. This also isn't as simple as just posting on the gallery and being done with it. We have a Discord for the competition, and each of the competitors have to post their build by a specific time. That includes photos and a write-up about our builds, as well as what inspired us. So some additional rules are, since we are submitting photos to the judges, any outside photo editing is not to be included in their judging. So for instance, if you're a really good Photoshop person, or if you don't really know how to photo edit, that's not going to be held against you or in your favor. Judges also aren't to consider any shading presets, as well as use of the tool mod. So for instance, since the tool mod is allowed, some people might be better at it, or some people might not even have it or know how to use it. So judges aren't to consider that. But if you did use it, it's not going to be like held against you or anything. So I'll be honest, my Svalbard Norway submission did not score the highest. And actually last week, if there were eliminations, we definitely would have been eliminated. I understand where the judges were coming from, but it was still really sad to see. So I really stepped it up this week. And I hope the judges, as well as you, like this build. Now, to tell you a little bit about the prompts for this week, unlike last week where the competitors split apart into 2 different locations, Svalbard, Norway, and Madrid, Spain, this time we all went to Cairo, Egypt, but we could still choose from 2 separate prompts. We could either build the Sphinx or a pyramid, or we could visit downtown Cairo specifically and create a restaurant, lounge, or club that was based on Egyptian cuisine or culture. Now, obviously, I did not build a Sphinx or a pyramid. I built a restaurant that actually exists in downtown Cairo called Oldish, and there were actually a few different locations, and funnily enough, another builder in the competition built one of Oldish's other locations, which I thought was really cool. And both of us, I think, did a really good job. The location that I built, however, is in Zamalek. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And I thought it was stunning. I thought it was beautiful. And as soon as I saw the space and all of my inspiration photos, I knew that this was the restaurant that I was going to build. It was actually really funny because when I was doing my research, I had no idea what to look for or what I should expect. And as soon as I was looking up different websites to see recommendations for restaurants, like if I was going to be a tourist, almost every single one of them listed Oldish restaurant. And a couple of them had photos of the space, and they used a lot of teals, and they had this very specific decoration scheme, and I was just drawn to it. So for our specific prompt, again, we needed to create a restaurant, lounge, or club based on Egyptian cuisine or culture. We must list at least 1 restaurant or building in Cairo that we used as inspiration for our build, which obviously mine was Oldish restaurant. The size of the build was up to us, and we could build a bazaar or dollhouse loft style build if we wanted to. A single room was not allowed, and there is no max lot size for this specific build, so we could build as small or as large as we wanted. So I built in Oasis Springs, and I'm not very familiar with the base game worlds. Is that weird? I feel like that's probably weird. When I first started playing The Sims, I did it on my Twitch channel. I stream pretty much every single day except for Wednesday and Sundays. And we do a fair amount of The Sims, but my chat had actually unlocked me playing The Sims because as a kid, I was never really interested in it, but I quickly became obsessed. I used to play a lot of Animal Crossing New Horizons, especially when everyone else did during the pandemic, and I fell in love. I actually ended up recommending that my dad buy my mom a Nintendo Switch and get her Animal Crossing, and she also became obsessed. But basically, whenever I was playing Animal Crossing New Horizons, because I really loved the indoor decoration and also a little bit of the exterior, every single person in my chat was like, "Hey Tech, have you ever played The Sims?" And I'd be like, no, I think maybe like my mom asked us about it, like my brother and I, to see if we would ever want to play it. And neither of us were ever really into it. So I don't know. It doesn't really seem like my thing. Literally every single person in my chat was like, Tech, you're wrong. You will love The Sims. And they were right. So when I was first playing The Sims on stream, my chat had actually unlocked a legacy challenge that I sort of just quickly drafted for myself, which was to play through The Little Mermaid's life because I'm a big fan of The Little Mermaid. Basically, what I decided was I would get island living because of mermaids, and we would play through Princess Ariel's entire life. So we would start with King Triton and Queen Athena, and they would have all of Ariel's older sisters, then Ariel, then we would have to get rid of Queen Athena because she's not actually in the movie. Spoiler alert. The challenge wouldn't end until Ariel and Eric had gotten married. Ariel had moved into Prince Eric's castle, which my boyfriend built for me, and that's also on my gallery because I had all the packs at that point. The challenge wouldn't end until Melody had aged up and gained her mermaid powers. And it was honestly like such a fun time. I really enjoyed it. I also got a bunch of packs during that challenge. So I got like Get Together, I got Cottage Living, but I never actually played with any of the gameplay from those packs. So I was still pretty unfamiliar. And then I created an Around the World's Legacy Challenge with my boyfriend where I'll go in and I'll play with each of the packs that I've accumulated over the years, like the 2 short years that I've been playing, and basically learn the gameplay from those packs. Right now, we're actually on Cats and Dogs, and I'm having the time of my life. But again, I'm very unfamiliar with the base game worlds. Like, I've never built in them. I've never really gone to them. Actually, I have built in Oasis Springs once before for a shell challenge. My friend Nick Simulations, he actually created a like 70s style build that we had to like renovate. And that was a super fun challenge. It was also something that was getting my mind off of something usually important. I had a health scare last year, and it was just very fun to do that. So I have a little bit of experience building in Oasis Springs, which might have helped me with this build. I don't know. We'll say it did. So basically, I tried to find a place where the restaurant could fit in Oasis Springs, still look like Egypt, and not necessarily just in Oasis Springs. And because the actual building that Oldish is in is like, it's like on a city street. Like, there's a bunch of buildings like all pushed up against it. I had to figure out how to build this without all of that around it because I wanted enough space for the actual restaurant. I also knew that I didn't want to build on a massive lot. I wanted something a little more medium sized, and I definitely wanted it to just be the focus of this specific restaurant. I didn't want to build like the buildings surrounding it. There also wasn't that many pictures of the buildings surrounding it or the exterior as a whole. So a lot of that is sort of my own interpretation, but the base front of it, for the most part, looks like it does in Egypt. Figuring out the floor plan for this was a little bit intense. So something that drew me to this building in particular is the fact that it's a 2-floor restaurant with an impressive open double height lobby, sunken first floor, and a mezzanine level. So like part of it is open, and especially the front where that like big window space is there, it just goes straight up to the ceiling, but there is a mezzanine area. I also built a 3rd floor on top of it, which is where I put the actual like restaurant staff and like the restaurant items, like the kitchen. I also added in a bathroom for staff and a bathroom for customers upstairs, and 2 private like party spaces. So that whole area was kind of just imagined, but I knew that I wanted that because there's sort of a little balcony space that you can see from the front of the building. I don't think it's part of the restaurant. I think it's probably residential, but I wanted to include it because I thought it looked really cool with the rest of the exterior space of Oldish. And I decided to make it into a balcony space that wrapped around the building. And then under that, I wanted to have a little garden area because there's a specific window in that like first main entrance, like dining space, and I wanted to use a window, but I thought it would be weird to have a open window, like no glass pane, because anyone could just like fall in or like throw something in there. I don't know. So it just like weirded me out. So I decided to put a little garden space, and then above that is part of the balcony. But basically everything else in this build is specific to Oldish. So there are the dining tables in that front space, having the host booth at the top of the steps, that huge like multiple lamp chandelier, what like it was just beautiful. And I was like, I have to rebuild this. I also ended up getting the Courtyard Oasis kit, which was a little unexpected because I never thought that I would need that or really like it, because I knew that there wasn't really enough build items to make an entire build with it. And I don't know, I think I pulled it all together. I actually wanted it specifically for the fencing. I thought that a couple of items could probably be used here and it would be helpful, but I knew that I wanted it for the fencing because the fencing that is used in the actual build is actually quite similar to the Courtyard Oasis fence. So I caved, I got it, and it ended up being way more helpful than I thought. I used a lot of the spandrels, I used all of the columns in it, and I used it for the flooring. So I actually got a ton of use out of the Courtyard Oasis kit, which was very surprising because I was not going to get it originally. So something interesting about this build is that I didn't necessarily stick directly to the source material, which I think is what the judges have been asking of me, but I didn't fully realize. I think that they were looking for a little bit more of myself in each build, and maybe I was not getting that until my feedback last week. So I tried to put a little bit of my own personality and my own design choices in this that didn't necessarily align with what the actual building looks like, either on the exterior or the outside, but I still kept as close to the source material as possible. So some of the things that I included that were like specific to me were, do you know that weird Strangerville tub that has like the plants in it? I love that item. I almost never get to use that item, but I love it. And if I can use that item, I will use that item. I use that item here. So you know, like where that window space is that I said, and I made that little garden area underneath the balcony, I put that item there. And I think it looks really good. I tried to put in more greenery and try to tie it all together, but I just love that item. It just makes me really happy. I also made this very interesting wall art piece where I put a bunch of those like wall mounted plant thing by the stairs, and I put a bunch of them all together and then a mirror behind it. And I think it looks really good. I think it's like a very nice art piece that definitely does not exist in the actual place, but should. I thought it looked really good. I was very impressed when I came up with that. I also added a bunch of different touches to the exterior. Like I added some hanging garden ivy and stuff like that. I added those like wooden posts that were around the entire exterior. I also wanted to make sure that I created the hanging chandelier. I had recreated having that mirror in that front space because I thought it was like a little odd that they had a mirror there, but it also felt like important. It's also kind of like facing the foot of the stairs. So I just wanted to recreate that as well. There's also that diagonal garden space at the front. Also, at times, there's this hanging greenery, I guess, that they stick in the fencing or the railing of that like upper mezzanine. And I knew that I wanted to recreate that for this build. I think I started talking about this, but I don't know that I actually finished my thought. But you know how the building itself is split among like 2 floors? It took me forever to figure out how to do that because there's like ground floor height, which is what the front of the building, like you come in the door and then you go down. I knew that I didn't want it to be the exact same spacing or height that it is in The Sims. So I tried a few different methods to figure that out. I was playing with platforms a lot. What I ended up doing was I made the ground floor and then you go down the stairs into the basement. but that's on a raised platform. So I don't believe that most of the first floor is that functional. You can get into that first dining area and then you can go upstairs to the mezzanine and then the upper floor. But trying to figure out that took such a long time. I actually started building this on my stream last Monday, and it took us a long time to figure out what we wanted the actual setup to be, because we couldn't figure out, like, did we want to have it on a platform and like lower it, or did we didn't know exactly what we wanted, and it took us a really long time. And settling on it being in the basement, I think, was like the pivotal point for us, because then we could basically start working on the rest of the build. And then I kind of didn't work on this on Tuesday at all, and then I started jumping into it on Wednesday, which is basically what's going to happen this week. Because this week is kind of interesting. So a little bit of a life update here. I'm actually seeing my favorite musical group tonight for the second time ever, and I'm meeting a friend that I have had for a huge chunk of my life, basically since I was 10, for the very first time. We ended up really hitting it off, loving this musical group. I don't know if you've heard of S Club 7. They now go by S Club, but I had actually gone to the S Club 7 reunion tour in 2015. I dragged my boyfriend with me to London, and we went to the O2 and we saw them. I also had a VIP ticket. He did not, because it was way too expensive. And I got to meet them. We also sat apart for the entire concert. We actually went into the O2 together. And then when it was time for me to do my VIP experience, I had to split off from him, and I didn't have cellular data because like international data is like expensive. He did, but we didn't want to use it if we didn't have to. So we basically spent the entire concert apart. I had no idea where his seat was. I had third row seat. I had a third row seat, and it was just incredible. But this time I'm seeing S Club with my boyfriend again, and my friend and her boyfriend, and it is the very first time that the two of us are meeting. We have been friends like legitimately since I was 10, and I don't know, just getting to experience this with her, oh my god, it's gonna be a dream come true. That might have been a pun. If you know, you know. But this time, S Club, it's going to be 5 of them. So unfortunately, Hannah Spirit, who was part of the original lineup, she decided to step away after Paul Cattermole, unfortunately, passed away last year. And something that I think is amazing is S Club has renamed this tour to the Good Times Tour, because that was the song that Paul was like main lead on. So I don't know, it's gonna be very emotional, I think. Also, 2 characters from their first from the first season of their TV show are going to be there allegedly, and I'm very excited to meet them too. I don't know, it's just so unbelievable that this is happening and that I don't have to travel to London for it. We were so afraid because S Club had reunited and they did not mention a United States or Canada tour or anything. And we were a little bummed, especially because if you didn't know, I was furloughed during the pandemic, and I've been looking for work since then while I've become a Twitch streamer, and been struggling a little bit. So I definitely didn't have the finances to just fly to London this time. So I was very sad that we weren't going to be able to see them. And then they announced a tour for the States. And actually, this friend, she came into my Twitch chat one morning and she was like, you have to go look. You have to go look. And I was like, what? We were like freaking out because we never expected this to happen. So the fact that S Club are going to be here in New York City is just wild to me. So I actually took this morning off, so I'm not streaming today, but I'm going to be streaming tomorrow. So if you're watching this at 10 a.m. when it is first posted, if you don't mind, you can come to my Twitch chat. You can find out all about it. We're also going to be doing my legacy challenge, which is very exciting. So yeah, if you're a fan of S Club or you're a fan of The Sims, after you're done watching this video, pop on over to Twitch. I'll put my link down below, but basically it's twitch.tv/Teknikolour. And we're gonna be live playing The Sims for a bit, but we're gonna start off talking about the S Club concert. I'm just so excited. I honestly can't believe that I'm getting to see them again. It's just boggling my mind. And I'm so excited. I'm so anxious. I can't think about it. So that's why I'm actually recording this commentary right now, because as soon as I'm done, I have to finish editing and then get ready for this. Get ready for this concert, because I don't know. I don't know. I can't do anything else. We have to get there so early for the VIP experience, and the show isn't going to end until late. So by the time I get home, I'm going to be exhausted. Going back to the build a little bit though, I also created a little bit of an outdoor space, like a back patio. I knew that for this, it was going to be a little harder to use terrain tools. I wasn't really sure how to make them fit in here, and it felt like it would be out of place if I did. So I decorated a little bit using some of the items that would be in like the overworld, and I added a little back patio space. I added another little garden area. I also added an area for staff. So there's actually a staircase in the back that they can go up to and like throw out trash. So I don't know. I also changed the look of the exterior towards the end. It was very muted. It was a very dull blue, like teal color. And I felt like it wasn't fitting. So I decided to do a little brighter of a blue or teal. And I think I used the paint from Island Living, and it transformed it. It made it look so much better. I really wasn't expecting it. I didn't think it would look like that at all. I thought I could only get as good as that muted color, but I don't know. It worked. It worked. It also took me a little bit of time to figure out how I wanted to work on the flooring for this space. As soon as I used the Courtyard Oasis rug and used quarter tiles for the flooring, it really started to come together. The roof also was a little bit of a struggle, because as you could tell, I left the roof until the very end. I was not sure what I was going to do or how we were going to make it look like it was going to be part of Egypt, and I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what it could look like, and I landed upon using a bunch of those like kind of, I don't know, like roof topper pieces, and sort of sinking them into like half walls. And I'm not 100% pleased with the way it looks. I think if we had an option that had the two of them like turned together, I think that would have looked better, but there's a little bit of clipping going on, and I don't know, I just get really annoyed with clipping. But overall, I think it looks really good. I think I did a really good job on the roof, especially because I didn't know what to do for the roof for the longest time. We're nearing the end of this speed build right now, and I know that it is zipping around like crazy because this took me a really long time, and I had to cut out a lot. Things are zipping around really fast, so it's hard to see everything. So why don't we pop into the game? I can give you a proper tour, and then when we're done, I'll post in a little bit of a slideshow for you. So here we are in Oasis Springs. We built on Sandtrapped Flat, which is a 30 by 20 lot, and it costs a good chunk of change. I also used pretty much every single pack that I could, which I am so sorry for, but this is the exterior. It has this balcony space that I was telling you about over this little garden. There's a little spot that you can eat out at the front, and then in the back, of course, there's the space for staff, as well as a little eating spot back here. When you come in through the first floor, here is that double height eating spot that I told you about, with that window peeking through into that garden space. And over here is that main lobby area, and then more dining space underneath. Then there's space for waitstaff over here, and then the steps in that door to go outside. Going up to the mezzanine space, there's a space for the bathrooms, as well as more dining spots. Coming upstairs to the top floor, there are these two private spaces. There's the kitchen with a walk-in temperature controlled room. There's a staff bathroom. There's a bathroom for guests. Back here is that balcony space that I was telling you about. And there's a little spot that you could just sit here and chat. But that is basically the entire build. If you want to see more about the Builder games or my previous submissions, I'm going to link down their official website as well as my playlist of previous builds. And if you want to learn more about my S Club concert or you just want to see more Sims gameplay, be sure to follow me on Twitch. I would really appreciate it. Again, my URL there is just twitch.tv/Teknikolour. But I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.